Do you ever think about pilgrimage? I find the idea of leaving my home for spiritual enrichment to be offensive to my aesthetic sensibilities. Christian pilgrims are called palmers because they bring back palm leaves as symbols of their journey to the Holy Land. And by symbol, I mean souvenir. Yeah, it's tacky, but so is a field trip to the Holy Land. It seems to me that the divine does not exist in a place, but in ourselves. Everything you are is generated by the Big Bang, and therefore, truth and God are embedded into yourself. If you pull on the thread of your own personhood, you will inevitably tug on millennia of context. Who you are today is a direct result of migrations, geological episodes, wars, politics, supernovas. If you infinitely unspool yourself, you are literally left with the entire universe. Isn't that where you find God? Therefore, should it not be the inner movement through flesh and not the outer movement through space that brings on the feeling of the numinous? That sounds like I'm suggesting enlightenment comes from fingering yourself. And I'm not saying that. What is the purpose of this apparently universal need to journey to a sacred space? I suppose there are 3 options. 1, the pilgrim must leave home. 2, the pilgrim must take a journey, and 3, the pilgrim must arrive at a destination. It's deductions like these that keep the people of London safe. Now, number 3 is primarily the reason pilgrimage reads as so pedestrian to me. Like, arriving at a place to pray and touch some objects is the kind of thing that I imagine sounds good on paper, but is unlikely to fulfill the need being expressed through the desire to take a journey to a holy site. The relationship between people and objects can be profound, it's true. I'm Jewish, and we have a number of holidays that are specifically called chags, pilgrimages, related to the Arabic word hajj for my Muslim friends. I've been to Jerusalem in a religious capacity, I've touched the wall of the temple, and what I've noticed is that while the transcendent can be experienced out in the physical world, this kind of transcendence is a solitary one, not one that emotionally resonates as being with another presence, neither a God that lives there, nor one's ancestors who stood there before you. If you've been on pilgrimage and felt a connection by being at a site, I think that's very special, and don't let my dumbass cheapen that experience for you. But, in my experience, objects outside ourselves are more elucidating as a mirror than as a window. Option 2 reminds me of people who crawl to pilgrimage sites on their knees, or weighed down by cinder blocks. As an edgy bad boy atheist, I naturally think of Nietzsche. Nietzsche believed that people should undertake intentional trials that cause them to struggle and suffer. Through these intentional trials, people become more than what they are. Knee walking to Santiago de Compostela or Fatima are generally described as walks of penance. The self-inflicted pain is intentionally built into the experience. In Judaism, atoning for one's bad behavior is accompanied by a strike on the chest. Generally not a painful one, if you're a beta-ass bitch. Ow. Ooh. Oh, owie. I've never sinned. That's why that's so difficult for me. And so, I ask, for whom exactly does the pilgrim suffer? Think of the way one struggles through the act of pilgrimage. It's not offering oneself up to punishment. The pilgrim takes the responsibility for correction onto themselves. The pilgrim self-assesses and designs a trial, after which will emerge a godlier version of themselves. Whether the emergence into a new state of being happens through the cleansing of the soul or intentional self-authorship, the trial of one who seeks to transform themselves is far more instrumental than the significance of the holy site itself. I'm liking this option a bit more. It's very Ice Pick Lodge coded. The last option is simply a need to leave home. The simple act of journeying past creature comforts and into the unknown provides the pilgrim with the benefits of the pilgrimage. Of course, Dante moving through hell comes to mind immediately. The guy straight up gets lost in a forest and somehow still gets to be called a pilgrim. He doesn't struggle through hell, he's ferried through it by his idol Virgil, who kisses him every time he reads one of his political enemies for filth. The destination also doesn't matter. He's supposed to be going back to the world of the living, but ends up staying in heaven. Spoilers for the Divine Comedy. What matters is that he's lost and afraid, drowsily stumbling his way through a dark forest with no clue as to how he got there. Being lost in the dark and the cold is almost self-evidently related to religion. I almost feel cliche for bringing it up. Yes, people turn to God in the absence of anything else to do. Leaving home is scary, and perhaps allowing oneself to face fear necessarily brings a believer closer to God, just by putting themselves in God's hands. But there's another element to leaving home that we should consider. I'm getting this from Khalil Gibran, so I'm just going to borrow his words, since they're better than mine. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear that you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the over-prudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? Is not dread of thirst when your well is full the thirst that is unquenchable? For the prophet, all of life is a pilgrimage, and fear is a burden you need not take with you. A nest is a place of security that can never be secure enough for the liking of the fearful person. The pilgrim may find themselves afraid, but they won't allow their fear to divert their course. Leaving home and braving whatever fortune chance sends you is also a journey to the holy place. Perhaps God will care for you in this world or the next. Perhaps random chance will help you or hinder you, but just by leaving, you set your banal concerns for survival aside and become something a bit more conscious of the world, perhaps more attuned to the divine.